There is a big difference between stalls and objections. Kendall, do you know the difference? I gave you the slides.
I do.
Cool, and you're right. So the stalls, basically stalls are is you got to be careful if you're dealing with a stall or objection. A stall is really they're saying, I gotta think about it. It's not a good time. That might be closer to an objection, but delayed decision. I'm thinking about this, and I know we talked about this, but let me think about it for a couple weeks and come back to you. Non-committal, maybe later next month, hesitation. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it's good. And then non-specific feedback, you say, hey, how about the budget? They're like, yeah, we probably have the money. They'll probably be into it. And if you're allowing them to do this stuff, you might be seeing that no need, that no trust, that no money, no, but like all that kind of stuff. That's all hidden in the stall. But if you're not careful, those could be masked objections. So how you handle that's gonna be important. We're gonna talk about that. Objections. I really tried to figure out the right font and flow for this in the glow. I think that looks cool. Specific concerns. That's what we want to know. Clearly stated reasons. So part of like the spin selling framework is you want to see if there's something they say, we want to dig deeper and find out the implication of that so we can lead to a non-specific objection to a specific objection. We want to get there. We want to know specifically on an issue that we're talking about, and we want to make sure there's a stance on something. They're either saying no or yes to something, that we're getting direct feedback, that we're intending to resolve or clarify. That's where you come in. And also, and we're going to send this out to you guys, and they're more likely to indicate interest. So when they tell you an objection, objections are really just opportunities, because if they're telling you specifically, I don't think I can do this because of this, you can handle that. If you get off a call with somebody and you're dealing with a stall, you might be missing the absolute opportunity to ask that question. And you can't ask that question over email where they say, it's not a good time for us. You say, why not? You'll never get a response on that, right? Well, hey, just why don't we set up another call and talk about it? Like, yeah, we're busy. And the more you do that, the more you're just dead in the water. So you have to be really cautious that you're clear on if it's a stall. If they say, we just really need time, and go through it, say, cool. And you dig into that. We also talked about this. They say, we just do need that time. Okay. So if you have that time, does that mean this, right? So when we look at this, here's how we're going to handle stalls. We are going to acknowledge, and you know what? I didn't even realize I put the word probe in there, but this is a different kind of probe. It's a big decision. Can you just make sure, just so I'm clear, can you make sure that you can tell me this stuff? Create a sense of urgency. No, I totally understand what's going on. I just don't want to lose momentum. I know you said that you're interested in this. Can we just walk through anything else? You want to make sure that we're clear on that. So I know that this is just a timing issue, right? Use a commitment clause. I want to make sure it's the right decision. If we address that thing, does that mean that we're in a better position? We want to move forward. You can also do, reset specific steps. Cool. So it sounds like you need to take some time on this. Based on what we said, I think our next step is this. Does that sound right for you? Cool. Well, then let's do this, right? And acknowledge the decision-making process. That's a big one too. It sounds like you said that idea of, whether they're going to do this or that. That's the same thing. It sounds like that's a good plan for you. Let's just review, make sure that makes sense. So I'm clear. I always put it back on me. I'm like, sometimes I don't get stuff. So let me just make sure I get what you're saying. Right. Sometimes I can be dumb. So then they go, oh, okay, let me help you understand. Oh, thank you so much. Right. Then we use scarcity. I just, we're doing this right now. Actually, somebody on the webinar, we're doing some projects. One of the things that we're looking at, there's timelines for getting grants and funding. So we're looking at, okay, hey, just so you know, and we talked the other day about pipeline management. We've got a huge pipeline. I said, share your pipeline with your customers. Say, hey, we've got all this stuff going right now. Here's a picture of the pipeline. I just want to make sure that this is important to you, so I can make sure I have you in the right spot depending on priority. If it's not a priority right now, I'm happy to just move you to next month. And people, when they know they have something like a spot in your pipeline, are much more likely to say, well, no, I want to stay there. What's it going to take for me to get there? I just need a couple days. So it used to be 2 weeks. Now it's a couple days. It's a way to handle a stall appropriately. What do you think, Kendall, on that?
So on point, I think, well, the common and professional services and consulting is that it can feel esoteric to the business owner or whoever's asking for this help. Like there's no tangible thing. And so it is hard. Commonly it's all these stalls happen. And so to know what language to put around it to make it more specific. And then, as you said, we're a partner. We're partnering up against how to address this problem. And oftentimes, without knowing the best way to address the stall, you kind of feel like you're against you're not in a partnership role. So this is excellent for creating that conversational and relationship, because that's what's really critical in consulting and advisory services.
Totally, and that's I think you nailed it on the head there. Is that sometimes we run up against the resistance, and we don't want to sell against something they said no to. It feels like salesy. But if you go, okay, I know they're trying to evaluate this decision, and sometimes they need help understanding what their options are. So if we leave, so it's kind of like, how dare we leave them with this decision they're not clear how to solve. That's
Right.
that's mean of us. This process is to help be better for them, especially if you're dealing with, let's say, the succession matrix, you're dealing with strategic partner network, and they have a large company, they're dealing with family, they got mental health issues, right? There's so much complexity, especially in a high level decision, like $100,000 consulting deal or services deal, you're trying to do 10 grand a month. It's not like, hey, here's what it is. Do you want 32 gigs of RAM or 16? Oh, well, I could do. It's not that. It's complex. The ability that you have to navigate the complexity, especially with the experience, best practices with your clients, shame on you if you don't help them evaluate ways to move forward. What are your goals? What's the reality? What are your options you're considering? Let's look at some options. Cool. Sounds like you want to do this. That makes the most sense. We both agree. Let's do this. Right?
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Is help
If
them
you kind of, if you take on maybe the mentality of the cruise director and helping them solve this problem, then you're guiding, you're shepherding, you're providing insight versus feeling like you're selling and it's this competition.
And you can walk in. Good morning, Carnival Cruises, right?